Happy Homebrew Wednesday! So, what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to try my Irish Stout and also the chocolate stout that I brewed. So, I've got my Guinness glass here. So, let's get into this and see what we've got. I did have this in the freezer, so maybe a little bit frozen. And you can see it pours a really nice head on there. About a finger and a half, 2 fingers worth of head. So like I said, a little bit of that was actually frozen. The head is kind of a tan color, actually pretty dark tan. And not a lot of carbonation, but like I said, with the stout you're not supposed to have. There's some carbonation bubbles on the side of the glass. I don't know if you can see it or not. But very roasty smelling. The dark roasted grains in there, you can smell that. Almost like a coffee espresso smell, but there's no coffee in this. It's like I said, so much head on there, it's hard to tell what it smells like. But, it's like I said, it's really nice in the glass. Like I said, it leaves a lot of head lacing on there when you drink it, so let's try it. Guinness clone, big time. I like to pour these aggressively because if you do, it forces the carbonation up into the head. And I mean, it gives you a real nice, big fluffy head on there. But it also kind of flattens the beer, which makes it more authentic to a Guinness and stuff. Because really, Guinness doesn't have any carbonation to speak of. It is very roasty tasting. Like I said, pouring it aggressively and stuff, the beer is kind of flat. But there's a bite of the acid malt that I put in here, which kind of gives you that Guinness twang. Really, almost like black coffee flavor. So like I said, this is a fairly easy brew or beer to brew. It's like I said, if you really like Guinness, I highly recommend this beer because it is about as close to a Guinness clone as I've ever had. It is really good beer. It is very dry. So like I said, being a dry Irish stout, it's going to be, that's actually in with the style of the beer. So let's see. Very low carbonation, very roasty, almost like a black coffee, but not a coffee flavor. Really dark roasted grains, almost a hint of chocolate, but there's no chocolate in here. But it's like I said, it'd be a very bittersweet chocolate. It is very drying and very dry on the tongue. It's not, this is a good winter beer. I'm not sure that I'd be drinking a lot of this in the summertime because it's a heavier bodied beer. I have flaked barley in here. I think there's some debittered black or black patent in this. Maris Otter. I really do like brewing with Maris Otter. But, so it's a very good beer. Pretty much keeps the head all the way down to the bottom of the glass. As like I said, if I hadn't froze that, the head on that is actually, normally the bubbles on that are a lot tighter. But like I said, there is some frozen slushy at the top of that because I was trying to hurry up and get those cold before I reviewed them. But overall, very nice beer. I sent the recipe to, I think it was Hightal. So we'll see how his turns out because he actually kegged his. So I will finish this off and then I will be right back with the chocolate stout that I brewed with the cocoa nibs. So stay tuned. couple crackers to very good cleanse my palate. And so now we're going to try the chocolate stout. And I noticed from having this before that this beer doesn't produce much of a head. I don't know if over time if that will change a little bit. It does have a little more carbonation than the Irish Stout did. Probably won't be able to, but you can kind of see the bubbles on the glass here. Probably not on the camera, but like I said, not much of a head, but I'll explain why on this. I think that it's not getting much of a head on it. This has a smell similar to the Irish Stout, but there's almost a smelling of, almost smells like brewing coffee. You know, when you first start a pot of coffee and stuff, it's got that kind of aroma to it. But don't smell any hops or anything. But let's give it a taste. Okay. Alright. This one has a very, very smooth mouthfeel. It's really creamy when you drink it. And I'm not real good at reviewing beers, so my terms are probably pretty lame. It's very bitter to begin with when you first take a sip of it. But there is a hint of the chocolate that I used in this. But it's kind of a really bitter beer. It's not bad. I think what's going to happen and stuff is over time and stuff that the cocoa nibs that I used in this are going to blend a little bit better with the beer. But right now, they're kind of at odds with each other. It's like you kind of have the roasty Irish Stout type of flavor going on and stuff, and then all of a sudden you get hit with this really bittersweet chocolate. And right now, it's almost like two different beers when you're drinking it. But I think as time goes by and this beer sits for a little bit longer and actually blends a little bit and ages, that this will be really good. Now, a few days ago when I tried this, and you would think just a couple of days would make that much difference, but really, it kind of really does. When I first tried this, it was, to me, very astringent and almost a solvent flavor. And it's not from any of the way that the beer was brewed and stuff. It was actually, I think, from the cocoa nibs, because like I said, I tasted the cocoa nibs before I actually used them in the beer, and they are very bitter. It's not like eating milk chocolate or anything like this. This is like the actual chocolate that they get before they do anything with it, like adding sugar or cream or anything like that to make a milk chocolate candy bar. So it's almost more like your baker's chocolate. So it's a very dark, bitter chocolate. But this and stuff, it's a really, really dark beer too. You can't see any light through it, just like with the last one. Now, I do think on this one that my original gravity reading must have been off, because this read out and stuff from the gravity reading that I took originally and stuff. I think it was 1.053 or something like that, and it finished at 1.022, which I don't. Something is amiss there and stuff, because this sat in the primary for like 3 weeks. So it's like, yeah, something wasn't quite right there. And I think my original gravity reading was off. I don't know if the temperature was off and I didn't correct for that or what. But personally, I myself do not believe that this is a 4-point-something% beer. My guess would be, it's like I said, you kind of almost see the alcohol legs on the glass, because I mean it leaves like an oily film around the edge of it. I'm guessing this beer is closer to 6%, maybe even a little bit more. but it is a good beer. I mean, it's a really dark, bitter, chocolatey type of beer. The chocolate is not overwhelming in this by any means. The taste of it is there, but it's like a very dry Irish stout with more of a milky, creamy mouthfeel, because I did put lactose in this. And then it finishes off with like a baker's bittersweet chocolate flavor. Like I said, I think over time and stuff that this is going to blend into a really nice beer, but I don't know if you can kind of... Let me see if I can get the camera a little bit closer so you can see what this alcohol thing I'm talking about. With the higher alcohol beers, it kind of tends to leave kind of like almost like a oily film around the edge of the glass. You really probably can't see it on this camera. But right along in here, especially when you shake it, it's almost like an oily film, and that's usually a higher alcohol content beer will do that. So anyway, just thought I'd do a real quick update on my homebrew, and I probably will be putting the labels on this probably within the next week. I'd like to take both of these to a New Year's Eve party. So like I said, you're going to have to be a brave, ballsy soul to drink this one. Because like I said, it is, right now, it's very strong. It almost, and not as much alcohol flavor, but a slight flavor profile, sort of like the Rasputin or the KBS, but like I said, not near as thick. But to me, the flavor profile is very similar to the old Rasputin. But like I said, I think this is going to be really good when it mellows out just a little bit. It's like I said, I think probably sitting on it for a month or two would probably help. But anyway, that's my contribution to Homebrew Wednesday. And you all have a safe and happy New Year. Stay at home, drink homebrew, party at home. It's safer that way. No guy with a breathalyzer breathing down your neck when you're doing this on the road, because you're not supposed to be driving drunk. So, it's like I said, play it safe, stay at home, make some snacks. I've got some videos from years ago on some appetizers and stuff like that. So, just, you know, look through my videos, get some of those appetizer recipes, make some appetizers, drink some homebrew, stay at home, watch movies. Dick Clark, whoever's doing it nowadays, I don't even know who it is anymore. You know, just have a good time, but be safe. So, you all take care, and I will catch you in the future. Later.